It was a quiet Sunday afternoon at a famous restaurant in Washington, D.C. The place was full of well-dressed people talking, laughing, and enjoying the warm sunlight coming through the big windows. A waitress walked over to a table near the back and gently placed down glasses of water. At that table sat a woman with calm eyes and a soft smile. She was dressed simply. No guards, no cameras, no crowd. It was Michelle Obama. She had come to eat in peace with her old friend from college. No press, no speeches, just a quiet meal. But peace was not what she would get. The tension builds across the room. A woman named Karen Watson sat with her husband. Karen was in her mid-40s. Sharp suit, expensive handbag, loud voice. She had noticed Michelle the moment she walked in. Her eyes narrowed. She whispered something to her husband. He said nothing. She kept glancing toward Michelle's table, getting more annoyed with each second. Karen starts the drama the waitress brought. Michelle's food before Karen's? That's when Karen slammed her napkin on the table and stood up. The entire restaurant turned to look. Karen marched over to Michelle's table. People froze. Karen raised her voice. So you get to cut the line now, just because you're famous? Or is this a special rule for people like you? Michelle looked up calm, polite. I didn't cut any line. I had a reservation. Same as everyone else. Karen wasn't satisfied. No, I've seen this before. You people always think you're better than the rest of us. That sentence made the room go silent. You people. Everyone heard it. Phones come out. A young woman sitting nearby pulled out her phone and began recording. Others did the same. In seconds, the room was filled with the soft glow of phone screens. Karen didn't stop. This is why America is falling apart. Special treatment for the same people who always play the victim. Michelle didn't raise her voice. She didn't argue. She simply stood up, placed her napkin on the table, and looked Karen in the eye. Respect is not special treatment. It's human decency. Then she walked away. Karen's rant goes viral by the time Michelle left the restaurant. The video was already online. The caption read, Karen loses it on Michelle Obama, caught in 4K. By that evening, the video had over 5 million views. Karen's face, her voice, her words, all over social media. People were angry. Some were shocked, but many weren't surprised. They said, this happens every day. But today, it happened to the wrong woman. Karen doesn't realize what's coming at home that night. Karen poured herself a glass of wine. She didn't even check her phone. She thought it was over. I told the truth, she said to herself. People are too sensitive these days. But outside her bubble, the storm was just beginning. Comment sections explode under the viral video. Thousands of comments appeared. This is disgusting. She spoke to Michelle Obama like that. The way Michelle handled it. Pure class. Karen just ended her own life online. Even celebrities started posting. One famous singer tweeted, imagine being so full of hate that you attack a queen like Michelle. Growth. A well-known athlete said, Michelle Obama has done more for this country than Karen ever will. The hashtag #KarenVs. Michelle began trending worldwide. Internet detectives get to work within hours. The internet found everything about Karen. Her full name, her LinkedIn profile, the company she worked for, even her kid's school district. Her Facebook posts were dug up. Old tweets resurfaced. Anything, even slightly offensive, was shared again and again. Calls begin. Bods received hundreds of calls. Do you support racism? Fire her, or we stop doing business with you. By morning, Karen received an email from HR. We are aware of a video that has gone viral. We need to speak immediately. Her husband stays quiet. Karen sat at the kitchen table, pale, silent. Her husband looked at her. What did you expect? He said. She looked at him, confused. You think I was wrong? He didn't answer. He just walked away. Public apology. Later that day, Karen sat in her bedroom, staring at her phone. Should I post an apology? But she didn't believe she had done anything wrong. She began typing. I'm sorry if people were offended. Then she stopped. Even she knew that sounded fake. She closed the app. The news picks it up that night. Every news channel showed the video. One news anchor said, Michelle Obama didn't raise her voice. She didn't argue. She didn't fight back. But the internet fought for her. Another said, Karen's rant wasn't just about lunch. It was about everything wrong with how some people still see others. Karen's life freezes by the third day. Her job was gone. Her phone was silent. Her neighbors avoided her. She became the face of online shame. Not because she made a mistake, but because she never believed it was one. Michelle says nothing strangely. Michelle Obama didn't post anything. No video. No tweet. No interview. People asked her to speak out, but she stayed silent. And that silence? It made the story even more powerful. The sun had barely risen, but the world was already awake. In homes, offices, and phones across the country. One video was being shared again and again. The video of Karen Watson shouting at Michelle Obama in a restaurant. Her words, her tone, her face, it was everywhere. Social media meltdown on Twitter. Thousands of people were talking about it. The nerve of this woman? Unbelievable. Michelle didn't even say a word back. That's what real class looks like. This isn't just rude. It's racist. And people need to say it. Instagram pages shared side-by-side images. On one side, Karen yelling, on the other, Michelle.com and silent. The caption, loud hate versus quiet strength. YouTubers and TikTokers jump. Infamous YouTubers began uploading reaction videos. She really said that to Michelle Obama. She just destroyed her life in under 60 seconds. TikTok was full of short clips, edits of Karen's rant with dramatic music, young women doing impressions of Michelle's calm response, creators sharing messages about racism, class, and power. One TikTok went viral with this message. She thought she could embarrass Michelle in public, but she embarrassed herself in front of the whole world. The news doesn't stay silent by afternoon. Every major news outlet was talking about it. CNN, BBC, Fox, MSNBC. The story was too big to ignore. One anchor said, "We've seen people insult public figures before, but rarely like this, and never with this kind of backlash." Another reporter added, "The reason this video matters is because Michelle didn't say a word. She didn't argue. She let the world speak. For her, Karen's life gets exposed. The internet doesn't forgive, and it never forgets." People started digging through Karen's social media. They found old posts that sounded racially insensitive, comments where she complained about those people, photos from rallies and protests with controversial signs. Even worse, someone found an old video from 2 years ago. Karen yelling at a grocery store clerk who was also black. That video began trending too. Now people were calling her, repeat racist offender, danger in disguise. The real problem in America, her job response. Karen worked at a marketing company.org. She used to. By noon, the company posted a public statement. "We do not support racism in any form. The behavior shown in the viral video does not reflect our values." Karen Watson is no longer employed with our firm. The internet clapped back with praise. Good actions have consequences. Companies that stand against hate are companies we support. Karen tries to hide back at home. Karen turned off her phone. She closed the curtains, locked the doors. Outside, reporters waited on her street. Neighbors peeked from windows. Delivery drivers refused to stop by her house. Her husband didn't say much. He only asked one question. "What were you thinking?" She answered quietly, "I didn't think anything. I just spoke." He didn't reply. He just walked into another room and shut the door. Her friends disappeared. Karen opened her messaging app. She scrolled through her contact list. Most of her friends had either blocked her or stayed silent. The few who replied sent only one-liners. "You need help? I can't support you right now." Why would you say that to her? Karen felt like the walls were closing in. A message arrives as she sat on her sofa, staring at the TV with the sound off. Her phone buzzed. One new email, no subject. Line. No name. Just one sentence. "You need to face what you did." Karen's hand trembled. She didn't know who it was from, but deep down she knew. They were right. Still no word from Michelle despite all the noise. Michelle Obama stayed silent. No tweet, no video, no press statement. But her silence was louder than any response. One news anchor said, "Michelle doesn't need to speak. Her silence is the answer. Because this story isn't about her anymore. It's about the world and what kind of behavior we accept." People start protesting outside Karen's workplace. People held signs, "Dignity over hate. We stand with Michelle. No room for racism even outside the restaurant where it happened." People came with candles. Not to shout. But to show peace. They stood quietly, and that quiet was powerful. A new video leaks just when things couldn't get worse. A new security camera clip leaked from the restaurant that it showed Michelle arriving, the restaurant manager personally greeting her, pointing to her reserved table, the staff treating her with full respect. Karen wasn't even in the same line. She had lied. Now people were furious, so she was lying the whole time. She attacked Michelle for no reason at all. Karen hits rock bottom that night. Karen sat alone in her living room. No lights on. No phone in her hand. No voice left to argue. She looked in the mirror, and for the first time, Karen Watson used to live a very normal life. She had a job. She had friends. She had a comfortable home and a daily routine, but now, everything was falling apart, and it all began with a few hateful words, said in a moment she never expected to matter. Her career's gone. It had been 3 days since the video of her racist rant went viral. Karen had worked in marketing for nearly 15 years. She was a manager, respected, even liked by some. But on the third day, she got a final email from her company. "We officially end your employment due to the harm caused by your actions and the public response. Please return all company items." Her office badge, her laptop, her company phone. All gone. She sat in silence. The job she had built her life around was over. Her husband, Groves, cold Karen's husband Mark, had been quiet since the video broke. He didn't defend her. He didn't attack her either. He just stopped talking. He left early in the morning, came home late at night, and slept on the couch. One evening, Karen asked, "You think I'm a bad person?" He looked at her for a long time, then said, "I think you've always been like this. You just finally got caught." Those words hit harder than the internet ever could. Her daughter's message. Karen had one daughter, Emily, age 20. She was in college, studying politics and history. When the video went viral, Karen called her. No answer. She messaged her. No reply. But finally, one message came back. Just one line. You didn't just embarrass yourself, Mom. You embarrassed me. Karen stared at the screen, tears in her eyes. I was just angry, she replied. It wasn't about race. Emily responded, it always is. You just never saw it then. Silence. Her face becomes a meme online. Karen's face was now a meme. People made jokes, gifs, and edited videos using her voice. Even kids were imitating her in classrooms. She wasn't just a woman anymore. She was that racist Karen who yelled at Michelle Obama. No one remembered her name, but they all remembered her mistake. Her past comes back. People began digging deeper. They found stories from her old neighbors. A black woman posted a story. Karen once called the police on my teenage son for sitting on the front steps. Another man tweeted, she tried to get my niece fired for speaking Spanish in the break room. All the pieces were falling together. People realized this wasn't a one-time thing. This was a pattern. Karen's friends disappear. She tried calling her old friends, people from her book club, her gym, her street. Some didn't pick up. Others sent short replies. Please stop contacting me. I don't want to be part of this. What you said was too far. Even people who once laughed at her jokes now backed away. She was alone. The guilt begins one night. Karen couldn't sleep. She sat on the edge of her bed, looking at the letter from Michelle Obama. It had no anger, no hate, only a quiet message. Sometimes, silence is the strongest answer. Karen whispered to herself, why didn't I just walk away? Why did I speak? But deep down, she knew why. Flashbacks. Her mind went back in time. A job interview where she said, we need someone more professional looking. A party where she joked, that girl is probably on food stamps. A neighbor she avoided just because of how he looked. They all came back like cold water. Suddenly, she saw a version of herself she had never wanted to admit was real. The world keeps watching more. News channels picked up the story. A special documentary aired, When Racism Meets Respect, the Michelle Obama incident. It showed Karen's rant and Michelle's silent response, but it also asked questions. Why do people like Karen feel so bold in public? Why do they stay blind to their behavior? And what should they do after getting caught? Karen watched the episode alone, and she cried. A teacher's class discussion in a middle school classroom. A teacher showed the viral clip. Then she asked the class, what did Michelle Obama do right? A young girl raised her hand. She didn't fight back. She showed that some people don't need to shout to win. Another student added, she made the angry lady look small, just by staying calm. The letter grows heavier. Reread Michelle's letter for the 5th time. It was short, peaceful, kind, but it didn't let her off the hook. It ended with a simple line. Now that the world has seen who you are, what will you show them next? That question stayed with her. House was dark. The world outside even darker. Karen Watson sat at her desk, alone. The only light came from a small desk lamp and the soft glow of her computer screen. But she wasn't online this time. There were no videos, no comments, no notifications, only a blank sheet of paper in front of her, and a pen in her hand. She took a deep breath, and she began to write. The first words, Dear Mrs. Obama, I never thought I'd be writing to you like this. Not as a fan, not as a citizen, but as a woman who made the biggest mistake of her life. Karen stopped. Her hands trembled. She thought about all the things she could say, all the excuses, all the reasons, all the I didn't mean it like that phrases. But this time, she didn't want to defend herself. She wanted to tell the truth. The letter continues. When I saw you in that restaurant, I didn't see you as a person. I saw someone I judged before I even knew. I was rude, loud, and yes, I was racist. I've said things like that before, even if I didn't say them out loud. I didn't just speak with hate. I spoke with years of blindness, pride, and ignorance. Her pen scratched across the paper slowly, each word heavier than the last. You didn't fight me? You didn't curse? You showed more strength in your silence than I've ever shown in my loudest moment. Years of denial, as Karen wrote. She remembered all the moments she had ignored, the coworkers she laughed at behind their back, the time she crossed the street just because someone looked suspicious, the store manager she yelled at only because he didn't speak perfect English. They all rushed back, and for once, she wasn't trying to forget them. She was writing to finally face them. A message from her daughter just as she paused for a sip of water. Her phone buzzed. One text. From Emily. Are you okay? Karen stared at it for a long time. Then she typed back, no, but I'm finally trying to be. Emily didn't reply, but she didn't block her either. That was enough for now. The final lines, Mrs. Obama, I don't ask for your forgiveness. I don't even expect you to read this. But I needed to say, I'm sorry, not because I got caught, but because I finally saw who I've become, and I don't want to be that woman anymore. She signed the bottom with a shaking hand. Karen Watson. She folded the paper neatly, slipped it into an envelope, and sealed it shut. How will she deliver it? Karen didn't know anyone from Michelle's world. No managers, no assistants, no contacts, but she remembered something. Michelle was scheduled to speak at a local school event just a few miles away this weekend. It wasn't a political rally, just a small private event to support education, but public enough that Karen could try to attend. The morning of the event Saturday morning, Karen got dressed quietly, no makeup, no fancy clothes, just a plain coat and the envelope in her bag. She booked a rideshare and sat in silence. The entire drive, the car pulled up outside the school auditorium. Security guards and organizers stood near the doors. Karen walked up slowly. Her hands were sweating. Stopped at the door. One security guard raised a hand. "Do you have an invitation?" Karen shook her head. "I don't. But I have something for Mrs. Obama. I don't need to come inside. I just need to leave this." She held out the envelope. The guard looked at her, then at the other officer. "They," whispered finally. One of them said, "Wait here." The long wait. Karen stood alone. People passed by her. Some looked at her and recognized her face. She could feel the eyes, the whispers, but she didn't run. She waited. After 10 long minutes, the guard returned. He said nothing, just took the envelope and gave her a nod. Karen nodded back and walked away. She didn't know what would happen next, but her heart felt lighter. Inside the auditorium, Michelle stood behind a podium, smiling at a room full of students and teachers. She gave her usual speech: hope, grace, leadership, forgiveness. At the end, a staff member walked up quietly and whispered something in her ear. He handed her an envelope. Michelle looked down at it, read the name, and paused. She didn't open it. She didn't speak about it, but she gently placed it in her purse and smiled. Karen Watson sat on the edge of her bed, holding her phone. It had been 4 days since she gave Michelle Obama the letter. No reply, no message, only that one quiet email. She read it, and she kept it. That line repeated in her head, like a soft voice. She kept it. She didn't throw it away. But now, Karen wondered, is there something more I should do? News of another appearance that morning. Karen was scrolling through the local news when she saw a headline: Michelle Obama to speak at Unity Youth Center this Saturday. It was only 30 minutes away. The event was open to the public, a small gathering with speeches, music, and a message about coming together across differences. Karen stared at the article. She didn't want attention. She didn't want a camera, but something deep inside her said, go, not to be seen, but to listen. Quiet preparation on Saturday morning. Karen dressed simply again. No jewelry, no phone, just her notebook and a pen. This time she wasn't going to bring a letter. She was going to bring her ears and her full heart. She didn't want to speak. She wanted to learn. At the community center, the Unity Youth Center was filled with people from all backgrounds. Black, white, old, young, rich, poor. Everyone had come for the same reason: to hear Michelle's words. Karen arrived early, hoping to sit quietly in the back row. She kept her head down and avoided eye contact. But even before she reached the door, someone recognized her. The confrontation. A tall man in a red shirt stepped in front of her. "You're Karen, right? From the video?" Karen nodded quietly. "You really think you can just walk in here after what you did?" Karen didn't answer. Another woman nearby whispered, "Is that the woman who yelled at Michelle?" Eyes turned toward her. Karen felt her breath tighten. She whispered, "I'm not here to speak. I'm here to listen. That's all." A security guard came over, hearing the tension. He looked at Karen, then at the others. "Everyone's welcome, as long as they stay peaceful." The crowd quieted, and Karen slowly walked inside. A seat in the back. She found a small seat at the far end of the last row. She sat quietly, not looking around, not lifting her head. She felt embarrassed, exposed, but something kept her there. And then the room fell silent. Michelle Obama entered. The speech begins. Michelle stood at the center stage in a light blue jacket. She smiled softly, her eyes kind but serious. She spoke slowly, with strength. Sometimes the loudest voices in a room aren't the most powerful. Sometimes real power comes from grace. Karen felt a deep chill run through her body. Michelle continued, "We live in a time when people are quick to attack, quick to judge, but we forget that real change doesn't come from anger. It comes from reflection, from honesty, and from people willing to face their truth." A message without names. Michelle never mentioned Karen's name, not once, but everyone in the room knew what she was talking about. Karen looked down, her eyes full of tears, not because she felt shamed, but because she finally felt seen. A child's note after the speech, people began to leave slowly. Karen stayed seated. As she stood to exit quietly, a small girl no older than 10 walked up to her and handed her a piece of paper. Karen opened it. It was a drawing. A small heart, 2 stick figures, one with dark skin, one with light skin. Below it, the words, "People can change. I believe you." Karen looked up, but the girl had already disappeared into the crowd. Karen walks away. Karen didn't try to meet Michelle. She didn't ask for a photo, didn't wave, didn't speak. She just walked outside. But something had changed. Her walk was steadier, her heart quieter. She didn't feel like a monster anymore. She felt like a person learning how to be better. Cameras still watching outside. A news camera caught a glimpse of Karen walking away. A reporter whispered to his crew, "That's the woman from the restaurant." Someone asked, "Why is she here?" The reporter didn't answer. He just watched her go, not to be famous, not to be forgiven, but to finally face the damage she'd caused. It had been a week since Karen Watson visited the Unity Youth Center. Since then, she hadn't spoken to anyone about it. Not her husband, not her daughter, not even herself. But something was different. She no longer woke up in panic. She didn't avoid the mirror. There was still shame, still silence, but also something new, a strange kind of peace. Breaking news. Michelle's interview on Thursday morning. Karen sat down with a cup of tea when a familiar face appeared on the TV. A live interview. Michelle Obama. Her first public words about the restaurant incident. The host leaned forward and asked gently, Michelle, everyone saw what happened in that restaurant? You were disrespected in front of the world. Why didn't you respond? Michelle smiled softly. Because I didn't need to. Michelle finally speaks. The interviewer looked surprised. You mean you didn't feel angry? Michelle paused before answering. Of course I felt something, but not hate. I felt sadness. Sadness that in 2025, we still have people who fear difference, who treat people as less. Based on skin, Karen sat frozen. Michelle wasn't yelling. She wasn't shaming anyone. She was simply telling the truth. With calm, with grace, with power. Karen listens like never before, Michelle continued. I wasn't silent because I was weak. I was silent because I didn't want to add more noise. I wanted people to see what hate really looks like, and what peace looks like beside it. Karen covered her mouth. Tears filled her eyes. She's not angry, Karen whispered. She's human. The message behind the memoir. The interviewer held up Michelle's book. Becoming. You sent a copy to someone recently. No name, no cameras. Why? Michelle smiled again. Because people can change. But only when they're quiet enough to hear their own heart beating. I've met people filled with hate, and I've seen some of them become the kindest people I know. And some of them, the interviewer asked. Michelle looked into the camera. Some don't change, but I still believe in trying. Karen feels the shift. Karen watched the entire interview, not just with her eyes, with her heart, with her soul. And by the end, she felt something strange. Not just shame, not just regret, but hope. If she believes I can change, she whispered, maybe I really can. A message from her daughter later that day. Karen's phone buzzed. A message from Emily. I saw the interview. She's amazing. Mom, you're trying, right? Karen stared at the screen. She typed back, yes, not just trying, changing. A moment later, Emily replied with a single heart emoji. Karen cried quietly. She didn't expect full forgiveness. But now, she had her daughter's hand reaching out again, even a little. A look in the mirror that evening. Karen stood in front of the mirror. No makeup, no acting, no lies, just a woman, slowly facing herself. She didn't see a villain anymore. She didn't see a victim either. She saw someone in the middle of becoming. The world still talks online. People were still divided. Some said Karen didn't deserve a second chance. Others said Michelle's response was a masterclass in grace. But Michelle never named her, never humiliated her, and that silence spoke louder than any viral post. Karen takes a step that weekend. Karen went to a local shelter for refugees and immigrants. Not for attention, not for guilt. She went to serve food, sweep floors, and listen to people whose stories she never cared to hear before. She didn't speak about the video. She didn't mention Michelle. She just listened, and something inside her felt warmer. A stranger recognizes her at the shelter. A young black woman serving tea looked at her and said, you look familiar. Karen froze. She said. The woman didn't yell, didn't judge. She simply nodded and said, people who come here to help, we don't turn them away, and handed her a spoon. It had been nearly a month since Karen Watson's world fell apart, since her viral rant, since the letter, since Michelle's powerful silence, since the quiet card left at her door, and slowly, people were beginning to notice something different. Karen was still walking quietly, still staying out of the spotlight, but she was no longer hiding. She was showing up, not with excuses, but with action. Quiet work at the shelter. Cora now volunteered every weekend at the community shelter. She served food, folded laundry, and sat with lonely people who had no one. One day, a woman asked her, why are you here? Karen answered softly, because I spent too much of my life not seeing people, and now, I want to see and serve. The woman nodded. That's real. Social media reacts. Someone posted a photo of Karen sweeping outside the shelter. The caption read, she's still here, still helping, not with cameras, not for claps. Comments flooded in. Maybe she's really changing. Too little too late. We can't cancel people forever. Forgiveness isn't free. The world was divided. Talk shows, debate. A famous morning show host asked her panel, so, should we forgive Karen? One guest said, yes, she's doing the work. Another argued, no, public pain needs public accountability. But one quiet guest added, she's not asking to be loved. She's trying to be better. And that's something we shouldn't ignore. The grocery store incident. One Sunday afternoon, Karen went to the local grocery store. It was her first time shopping alone in weeks. She picked up milk, eggs, and a loaf of bread. But at the checkout line, someone shouted, you've got some nerve showing your face here. Karen turned. It was a woman she didn't know. Phone already in hand. Already recording. You think people forgot? You think you can fix racism with soup and silence? People around them froze. Cameras pointed. This was it. The Tescaran's heart pounded. For a second, the old Karen almost came back. the one who shouted, blamed, got defensive, but then, she remembered Michelle's face, her daughter's text, the shelter, the letter, and she said softly, "You're right to be angry. I can't fix what I did, but I'm trying, every day. And I'm okay if that's not enough for you." The woman lowered her phone. People stared, and for the first time, no one clapped, no one booed. They just paused and let her pass. Online again, that grocery video went viral too, but this time, the comments were different. She didn't fight back. That means something. Real growth is quiet. I saw it in her eyes. She still has a long way to go. Maybe she's not who she used to be. Even Emily, her daughter, sent her a message, saw the video. "I'm proud of how you handled it." Karen smiled just a little. Back at the shelter the following weekend, 2 new volunteers showed up. One of them, a young black woman, walked up to Karen and said, "Hey, I used to hate you. Now I'm just watching. Don't stop." Karen nodded. She didn't need applause. She needed to keep walking the path. Michelle's quiet influence in a new podcast. Michelle was asked again, "Why didn't you ever respond directly to Karen?" Michelle answered with a gentle laugh, "Because the goal was never to punish her. The goal was to wake her up." She continued, "We don't need more screaming. We need more growing." A final invitation. One evening Karen received another letter, this time not handwritten. It was printed, formal. She opened it carefully. Inside, an invitation to Michelle Obama's Foundation Gala, the theme, From Silence to Strength. The journey of change. Karen sat back in her chair. She didn't know if she was ready to go. She didn't even know if she deserved to. The night had finally come. Karen Watson stood in front of her bedroom mirror, holding the invitation card in her hands. "If you come, come with truth." She had read that line 100 times. Now it was time to live it. A simple dress. She didn't wear anything fancy. No designer clothes, no bold jewelry. Just a simple navy blue dress and a quiet heart. She wasn't going to impress. She was going to face her daughter. Emily stood in the doorway watching. "You nervous?" she asked. Karen nodded. "More than I've ever been." Emily walked up, gave her a small hug, and whispered, "Whatever happens, I'm proud you're going." The drive to the gala, the car ride was silent. The city lights passed slowly as Karen stared out the window. She thought about everything: the restaurant, the video, the shame, the letter, the shelter, the people she had hurt, and the people who had forgiven her anyway. This wasn't just a gala, this was a turning point. Arriving at the Foundation Gala, the building was glowing with soft golden lights. Elegant music played inside. Men in suits, women in gowns, cameras flashing. Karen felt small, out of place, but still. She walked in. At the registration table, a woman looked up and smiled gently. "Name, please." Karen hesitated. "Karen Watson." The woman searched the list, then nodded. "You're on the list. Please go in." Inside the room, the ballroom was full of warmth and light. Photos of strong leaders, young changemakers, and quotes from Michelle covered the walls. Karen moved slowly, staying at the edges. People noticed her. Some whispered, some stared, some smiled gently, but no one stopped her. Michelle takes the stage suddenly. The music faded. A spotlight moved to the center of the room. Michelle Obama walked onto the stage, graceful as ever, dressed in soft silver. The room fell silent. She looked around, then spoke. "Tonight is not about the past. It's about the journey we take when we finally decide to become better. Change doesn't start with a speech. It starts with the truth." Karen's eyes filled with tears. She knew this moment was for her. Eye contact for a brief second. Michelle's eyes moved across the room, and then they landed on Karen. Their eyes met. No smile, no anger. Just a silent understanding. A message that said, "I see you." Karen felt her knees tremble. She looked down, then back up. Michelle nodded ever so slightly.